Hi, everyone. It's Ken Rakowski. Welcome to our Metal Mentoring. I am so excited about today's Metal Mentoring because it's about something I'm insanely passionate about, and that is tea. In Greek, they call it sai. And in most places where you go, more tea is consumed than coffee, and in some cases, even water. Tea is something that brings you to the zen, to the mind, to the heart, to everything. And I am so excited. Matter of fact, Sasha Strauss, who connected us. Sasha, I'm going to unmute you. And Sasha, I want you to, yeah. Oh yeah, no, you're doing the introduction, buddy. This is your connection. So Mr. Sasha Strauss, tell us who we have today.
That's not fair. I didn't come here to talk. No. I'm not wearing my vest. You know how it goes. You're still going to make me do it?
I would like you to do it.
All right. I mean, look, I have food in my mouth. That's how unprepared I am. But I will say that I'm so honored to introduce my dear friend, Steve Schwartz, a father, a founder, a maven, a true a tea expert. Like, if you were to define what an expert needed to be, like, well, has he been to the mountaintops and lived with the people? Yes. And a spiritual being who's constantly on a soul quest and talks about it and shares that journey with me. And someone who have I am regularly getting business counsel from. So
Wow.
for all those reasons, I thought it would be special to have Steve. I will throw a we do holiday gifts at Innovation Protocol in my company with our key clients, our 300 most important partners, and we've done many magical things over the years. But one year, we curated this beautiful leatherette box of teas from Steve's Tea Company, and that has unfortunately ruined all three subsequent years of anything else we could possibly throw. So, just I warn you all. Anyway, that's my unprompted introduction.
For not wanting to talk, boy, did you just give a nice speech.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Steve. Thanks a lot for joining us. Tell us where you're located and about your shop.
Yeah, so located in Los Angeles, our warehouse is actually located in Monterey Park, which is about 10 minutes east of downtown LA. And this is where we're vertically integrated, bringing products in from all over the world, blending, packing, all that's done here.
And
And that's where I am today.
your quest started in New Mexico, right?
Yeah, great. Actually, it started even before that. I took care of my mom for when I was 19 years old. I got a full paid scholarship to go to university, and unfortunately had to leave university to go take care of my mom, who was diagnosed with brain cancer. And I took care of her for about 10 months, and that really woke me up into wanting to learn more about health and wellness and teas. Then ended up in New Mexico studying Ayurveda, a form of preventative medicine based out of India. And from there, super intrigued on tea, saved up my money, worked 4 different jobs, got a backpack, and started to travel around the world to find the best teas and botanicals possible.
Wow.
So
And
that's how we started.
what did New Mexico have that was unique enough to say, hey, this is going to allow me to see something I can't see anywhere else? What was the catalyst there?
So, when my mom passed away, we were only on allopathic medicine. There's nothing wrong with Western medicine. We went from one doctor to the next. And when she passed away, I realized, cancer must have been around for thousands of years. We only just recently labeled it as cancer. So I started looking at old texts, and I realized I didn't want to stick needles in people. I didn't want to be a massage therapist. I didn't want to be a doctor. But there's this one system called Ayurveda, and there's one doctor from India. And there's actually a documentary on him on Amazon called The Doctor from India. And he brought in Western and Eastern medicine collectively. And his approach seemed so holistic. So I went there, fell in love with the school, became the only student advanced enough to work with the masters at my school on how to source and blend. And this is way before Amazon. And we were like old Indian phone books and faxing vendors all throughout Asia. So that's really how a lot of this started.
And tell us about just the size of your enterprise that you have there.
So we service customers from like the Peninsula Hotel in Tokyo. So we have distribution in Japan and Singapore, and all throughout the United States. There's about 25 people on our team all together. We got hit really hard with COVID, and thank goodness there's a lot that we've learned, and we've come back really strong. So there's some really juicy nuggets that hopefully I'd be able to share with some of your members today.
Well, let's start today. When you say you're a tea master, a blend master is what it says. What's a blend master?
Yeah, great question. So um, there, I took the experience that I learned from working at the Ayurvedic Institute in terms of sourcing and blending, and a lot of those were powder formulas, but there wasn't any real industry leaders at the time in terms of tea. But I saw how tea was transforming the world. I saw how wine took this huge leap, coffee took a huge leap, and tea being the second most consumable beverage in the world, right behind water, I saw an opportunity to dive deeper into it. So really through trial and error, and then ended up teaching sold out classes at big world tea conventions, beginning and advanced classes. I taught the first tea sommelier at Caesar's Palace in the United States, and it created a niche where there was no, it was sort of a blue ocean. There was no one doing it at the time. And just through passion and trial and error, just continue to move forward.
What's a tea sommelier?
So great. It sort of takes the best of the lessons from wine, right? In terms of terroir and origin and flavor and craft, and being able to intelligently communicate those details to the guests. So when you look at it, if you take wine, a large majority of that is water, right? It's fresh grapes, but a large majority of that is water. But tea, over 98%, when you drink tea, is actually water. So what you're looking for when you're tasting is the essence of the essence of the essence within that 2%. So it takes a lot of refinement of the palate to be able to determine one origin versus another, one flavor profile versus another.
And let's talk about water then. Are you someone that uses distilled water? Are you still using minerals in the water? When you make tea, what kind of water do you like to use?
So first of all, at home, we have a really hardcore filtration system where it recycles, I'm sorry, not recycles, it churns the water on a weekly basis, goes through 3 major filtrations. And then and so what we wash our bodies with is extremely pure and clean. And so water is extremely important. Ideally, freshly drawn water is the best source of water that you can find. Second is spring water, and third is just either reverse osmosis or deeply filtered water.
But would you not go with distilled? Or do you not use distilled, or you want some minerals in it?
I want some minerals in it. Yeah, I want that body to come through. In fact, there's a shop in Japan where they have large river rocks. And what they do is they fill the water up through those river rocks, and that acts as the filtration system before they actually pour it over tea leaves.
This is really important, everyone out there, because the water that you're getting right out the tap doesn't make tea taste good. Matter of fact, you see that little slime on the top. You know what I'm talking about, right, Steve? It's like,
oh. Yeah, and also chlorine. Like being in Southern California, we have a lot of chlorine in our water. So you want to be able to cut through that. So that way the essence of the tea can really shine through.
When you travel, do you bring a filter with you? And do you bring one that removes fluoride, or like a Berkey? What do you like to bring with you when you travel?
I don't, when I, especially when I go to Origin, and sometimes, when I go to Origin, like it's taking a plane from one large airport to a smaller airport, and then traveling for a number of days on, dirt roads in order to get to some of these tea fields that we're able to source from. And so what we'll do is we'll taste based on the water that the teas are grown with. And then we compare it with the water that we're sourcing here in LA. And we'll have different filtration systems that we'll sample the water with. Because if we're working with, let's say, the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas, or we're working with Wolfgang Puck Restaurant in Washington, D.C., like the water quality is a little bit different. So what we're looking for is a consistent flavor profile, regardless of where that water source might be.
Yeah. So guys, I apologize. I mean, Comic-Con, you have the people that dress up like characters and they want to go to those events like that. I am in tea. I am like a fanboy, meaning I get excited. Like Steve, you're like somebody I dream of having dinner with and just, geeking out with tea. Okay.
That's awesome.
I'm so happy that you're here. Why do you think tea has taken so long to really hit a pace in America?
We are a silver bullet society, man. I mean, we need it. A shot of espresso, double shot of espresso. I need energy now. But in fact, I think oftentimes what we need is that sort of moment to kind of take a step back. Tea offers something very unique. It does offer caffeine like tea does. I'm sorry, like coffee does. But the polyphenols, the flavonoids, the catechins, all the good stuff within tea actually help create what's called tea mind. We're able to sort of clean the phrase of the mind and stay super hyper focused. So if you're giving a presentation and you need to be present and on, tea helps get you in that frame of mind. While coffee stimulates more of the musculoskeletal system. And I actually think that people are more addicted to the crash of coffee than they are the rush of coffee. Because they're like, they crash and like, shit, I need more coffee. But tea, you come back down to your normal state, right? So you don't actually crash like you do with coffee.
Oh, I love that. What a great observation. So can you talk about the different types of teas that we have? The white tea, the flower. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah. So there's teas which are graded by size, which we'll get into, but let's talk about tea types. So all true tea comes from one evergreen shrub called Camellia sinensis. Now I can't hear you guys, but I just want you to try to say it. Camellia sinensis. Okay, cool. So I'd like you to think about like grapes. All true great wine comes from grapes, but depending on the type of grape that's used and where it's from, you have, Champagne grape and Merlot grape, and you have Cab, and you have, various types of grapes. Now, depending on the origin that the grape is from, you also get a delicious glass of wine, and depending on the artisan that's making it and how they're storing it. So in the same way, white, green, oolong, black, and pu'er all come from the same evergreen shrub called Camellia sinensis. Now, I'm gonna get a little scientific, a little geeky, but without losing you, I'll just go really top layer. So you have Camellia sinensis, Camellia sinensis assamic, and Camellia sinensis cambode, right? 3 types of grapes, almost like that kind of analogy, and then thousands of subvarietals. And what they'll do is they'll often crossbreed them for strength and flavor. So white tea is picked and dried, and that's it. And we believe that true white tea should come from Fujian province in China. It's typically harvested for only about 7 to 10 days out of the year, typically hand harvested by women, because women have a more delicate touch. They're able to go in without actually bruising the leaves. And I can say that confidently amongst our tribe of men here. And then there's green tea. Green tea is immediately either pan-fired or baked or steamed. So if you go to a Japanese restaurant, you order green tea, it's really grassy and full and meets that umami, that seaweedy texture that you get from the cuisine. Or you can go to a Chinese restaurant and order green tea, and it's got that pan-fired, more roasted flavor profile that also match the cuisine. Then you have oolong, and oolong is anywhere from 1% oxidized to 99% oxidized, meaning they crush the cells of the leaves, they massage the leaves, they roll them in these giant baskets. And then they'll wait till 12 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's when they do the final roasting. And it could be through wood or charcoal or different heating elements to go for that final result that they're going for that oolong. And then black tea is 100% cooked and oxidized. And pu'er is a very niche collective of people that love and gravitate towards pu'er. It's a fermented tea. It kind of it's like your grandmother's attic or like a damp forest floor. It's a really funky smell and flavor profile.
You did miss
And
one.
then
You did miss one. You missed
so then there's a different one, which is not from Camellia sinensis, which is known as tisane. And tisane is a fancy French word that means botanical or herbal. So you have rooibos and yerba mate and chamomile and hibiscus, all these other fantastic botanicals that are out there, but they're not actually tea. So making a chamomile tea, it's an oxymoron. It can't exist. You can have a beautiful chamomile beverage or tisane, but if it doesn't have Camellia sinensis in it, then it's just not a tea.
It's funny how they call it chai tea, which is the same thing. It's saying TT, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Okay, so where do you like to live throughout the day? Because I think tea is something you enjoy, and different types of teas throughout the day. That's how I see it. Something that's a ritual in the morning, afternoon, evening. What's your ritual? Or is it spread out throughout the week?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I'm going to first go back just for a second on chai and tea. So there were 2 major ports. There was the port of tea and the port of cha. And depending on where the tea was sourced in China and brought out to different parts of the world, if it went to Asia, it was cha, right? Different parts of Asia. It went down to the Middle East, it was chai in India. If it went to Europe, it was tea or tea. So from these two ports, they really helped determine what was, I mean, this is the first energy drink of the world. And think about it, like, the first time people felt a sense of rejuvenation and joy and ritual really came before Red Bull and coffee and all these other things. It was tea that really helped transform not just war and transportation systems, but philosophy and health and wellness. So in terms of ritual, tea has helped me personally through COVID in a very meaningful way, but also as part of my ritual, from what I do early in the morning, throughout the day, and at night, I'll tend to oscillate from different teas. I also taste hundreds of teas a month. So what we're looking for is the same flavor profile in tea if you order in January versus if you order in June. So I'm tasting different teas, but as far as my go-to, it really depends on the seasonality, but I definitely have my go-to favorites. And then I have a weekend favorite as well. We have over 100 different teas. They're all like my children, so it's really hard to pick exactly one.
My favorite is, I'm not sure if you've even heard of this before. Can you see that? It's pucang. And it's from Indonesia. It's from a mountain in Indonesia. You've never heard of this one apparently, right? Can you see it?
No, I've never seen it. So
What
I'd
I
have to
can
see
do
the
is
leaf.
I can drop one off to you this week. I
Sweet.
have, and you could smell it. And it's comes from a very mountaintop in Bogor, Indonesia. And it's one of my favorite reasons to go to Indonesia is to get this tea. And it's one of these things when I drink it, like you probably, you have all those memories that go with the location and it's like wine. When you go to the vineyard and you meet the people that pick the grapes, there's a story behind that. And I think that's lost with most people. They just get tea and they're done, not really sitting back and wanting to know more about the story. Do you agree?
So we wanted, yes, absolutely. We wanted to discover, why are people drinking teas? And we found that they drink them because of four major reasons. One is there's a nostalgia piece. I sat with my grandmother on my front porch and this is what we did, right? Or I went to Indonesia or I went to England and this is the memory that it's continuing to bring me back to. Another is function, right? I don't feel well. I need something for my stomach. I need something for energy. I need something to chill me out and get me relaxed. And the last is it just tastes good, right? So these four major paths, we had to figure out, okay, well, how can we make an impact through these four different channels based on really understanding our customers' needs? But that nostalgia piece, because tea fits all of that sensory experience. You're right there when you're going back to Indonesia, right? As soon as you brew that cup and you look at the packaging and you feel it, it's a full dimension experience.
Right, right. So if someone gets you a gift of tea, do you go, damn, they didn't really know. That's not what I'm into. Or are you just like, yeah, what? Cause like someone bringing me, I don't drink wine. So someone brings me a bottle of wine. It's like, why did they do this? I don't drink. So how critical are you when you get something from someone that's tea?
I'm very critical. Yeah, but I'm so excited to try your treasure,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're sharing it with me. Like, and you don't even need to give me the whole thing. I just,
Oh no,
I
I'm going to
saw
give
the
you the
box, just
whole
like
thing.
a little section.
I'm going back to
I want-
January to get a whole bunch more.
you have to understand, like, it's sort of like, you have the Ricky Mantle, and I want to see what a Ricky Mantle, like,
Oh,
I want to know what that's like. I want to
all
see
right,
it. I want to look at it. I
all
want
right.
to feel it. Like, I want to taste it. So, and it could be,
No,
by
no,
the
go
way,
ahead.
there's a really quick story of Charles Schwab, who was would every day would walk by this, I believe it was in New York, and you would see a tea taster in front of the window, tasting different teas and looking very sophisticated. It was early in the morning, because early morning is the best time to taste teas. And Charles Schwab walked in, saying, I'm not sure if you know who I am. I'm Charles Schwab. And the tea blender said, oh, okay. It's like, I am a tea expert and I want you to taste the tea that I've made. I've combined different types of black teas and I want to know what you think. And so the tea taster tasted it and said, sir, this is the worst tea I've ever tasted. And Charles Schwab was like, you don't know shit about tea. I'm out of here. So, it really, it's up to every person's taste. What could be gold for someone could be absolute trash
Fair,
for someone else. So
fair enough.
it's not my cup of tea,
What'd
right?
you have today?
Right now I'm drinking Crimson Oolong, and Crimson Oolong is a award-winning, hand-rolled, delicately tied oolong grade tea. And I blended a little bit in with jasmine pearl. So I do what's called a tall glass approach. So literally, I'll take the tea leaves. So these are hand-scented jasmine pearls, and literally, we've been working with the family that's been doing this for the past 800 years. So I'd like you to imagine that you're on this mountainside in Fujian province. It's 100 degrees outside. It's midnight, and you're in this tiny hut. And they have tea leaves that have been cold stored since the springtime, and now it's late summer, early fall, and they put fresh night blooming jasmines directly onto these leaves. And the essence is just soaking in and seeping into these leaves. They remove the night blooming jasmine, but leave the tea leaves there. And they put another fresh batch on. And they do the scenting process 9 to 12 nights until it's just soaked in fresh jasmine essence. And then they end up rolling it into these delicate little pearls. So you have this, how, or that white fuzz on top of the leaves. You have two buds in a leaf gently rolled together. So you end up getting is this gorgeous bouquet of floral with a sharp astringency. So you being this world traveler, you know that in America, we're obsessed with sweet, but in other parts of the world, astringency is celebrated. So tea is that sharp puckery spike that you end up getting at the end of the cup. That's that I love. I really love that sharpness at the end. Not bitter, but
But it's
astringency.
so different, Middle East versus Asia versus India, on how they look at tea. It's
Yeah, especially with ritual, right? And what have you? I'm curious what you've experienced, because as you're sitting down and you're having tea, and usually it's over. There's warm business transactions. There's warm conversations. It does something to open up the vocal cords and allow a deeper conversation. But I'm curious what you experience in terms of ritual
I
as you've
am
gone to
not
these
as,
different places.
I think you're probably very, very stringent on the way you are with tea. I allow it to kind of be like a Burning Man sensation, where I'll allow people to try it in different ways.
Yeah, it's
And
awesome.
experience with them. So someone's going to say, you got to try this with oat milk. I go, all right, I'll try it with oat milk. I'm willing to try and see where they're going with it. And I'll try things that are unique. Like I have an ice wine tea. Have you ever had one of those?
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So
this is an ice wine tea
beautiful.
made out of grapes.
From Canada, I'm assuming.
It's a Canadian ice wine, and they use the leaves to make a tea.
Oh,
It's
beautiful.
interesting. So they're unique things, but I'm willing to try. And then out of New Zealand, so everywhere, but they use tea differently, to where you see it as holistic in a lot of ways.
And part of it is, people ask, is it okay that I put milk in my tea, or is it okay that I put sugar in my tea? And my answer is, you should make tea how you like it. How you like it, that's what makes an amazing tea experience. And I'm a much bigger fan of the ritual behind tea than the orthodox style of, the rigidness of one particular strand versus another strand. Now, granted, in terms of sourcing, the purity of the sourcing is really important. But in terms of the ritual aspect, we'll give best practice and tips. The ritual aspect, absolutely. So part of it is there's symbolism. So, for example, let's say that you and I are shooting. We're going to an archery center, right? And I shoot an arrow, and you shoot an arrow, and you hit a bullseye. We've never shot before. We're like, yeah, we're just having fun. And you hit a bullseye. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. You pull back and you hit a bullseye again. Super impressive, right? Or it could just be an accident. We don't really know. But you hit that bullseye the third time, it's no accident. You're an expert. So a Korean style and some Japanese methodologies in terms of preparing tea is pouring 3 times. Now there's a practical reason, because at the top of the pot, oftentimes what you'll have is a lighter brew, and at the bottom of the pot, you'll have a much richer brew. So by pouring 3 times, you end up getting a very consistent flavor profile. But also there's a deeper level of intention, right? So I have a beginning, I have a middle, and I have an end. And so by pouring 3 times, both for you and for a guest, you're adding that sense of, 1, discipline, and 2, intention, and 3, that ritual of beginning, middle, and an end, that connection. And that plays into whether you're in Morocco or whether you're drinking out of with a samovar in Russia, or you're having a traditional Korean tea ceremony. So, but even still, I think what's most important is in our modern society today, wherever we are in the world, what does ritual look like for you? How can we have something as simple as just leaves and water play a really meaningful role in terms of getting us more present, more in tune, and how does that light really help shine up in our atmosphere around us?
Have you been to places in Asia where they have brewed the same tea out of the same pot, to where the
Mm,
pot has created its own type of flavor because of what's been brewed in it?
yes, awesome question. So that type of pot is called yixing, Yixing. And yixing gets its name from a particular mountain region where they derive purple clay. It's like a really dark amber clay. And they shape very unique, very beautiful looking yixing. And by the way, there's a lot of fake yixing teapots on there. You want to look for the artist insignia on the bottom and on the handle and on the lid. But why unglazed? You'd think that you'd want the glaze so that there's no flavor transfer. But actually, with yixing, it absorbs the flavor. So you want to use the same tea for that teapot each and every time, whether it's an oolong or a pu'er. And the more you steep the tea, what ends up happening is that the oil and the essence seeps into the clay. And then as you pour it, let's say you run out of the tea, every like 20 batches or so, you can actually just the pot and pour it into your cup, and you get a beautiful steep tea without actually adding tea leaves to it.
I know ones that have been handed down generation to
Oh
generation,
yeah.
and it's the stories that go along with the pot is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, you want to look for a deep resonance. As you turn the lid, you don't want to hear a shallow sound. You want to hear a deep resonant sound. As you turn the lid over, you want to make sure that the handle, the lid, and the rim are all even without the teapot tilting. There's a numerous things you want to be able to look for when you're looking for a yixing that's been passed down from generation to generation. But more importantly, really is that deep resonance.
It's interesting as you start to talk about tea. I love how you're expressing the story. And then when we talk to people that really are into wine, they have the same story, but it's almost like they can't wait to find the next wine. It's like, oh, I can't find the next variety, the next great discovery of wine. Once you find a tea you love, you stay with it. It becomes part of your life. It's not like the next discovery. It's like, this is part of my family now. Where wine, it's almost like you're looking at having a polyamorous relationship with multiple wines. With tea, it's,
That's awesome.
right.
Uh,
Like the tea that you loved 10 years ago is still inside your family. You still
yeah,
love
yeah, it's so true. You can have that relationship. Well, you know how it makes you feel. You know the story behind it, and you know what it can do for you physically. It stimulates the thyroid, which governs metabolism and governs immunity. And so you have it affecting that as well as the mental state, that T mind aspect. So wine might make you feel tipsy, might make you feel drunk. Maybe the flavor hits your mouth in a particular way, depending on what you're eating. But tea has this timeless effect. There's been wars, not just the Boston Tea Party, but just imagine an army of samurais on one side and an army of samurais on the other, and this little tent between the two armies. And the two generals come into this tent, and there's a tea set up for them. So they use that little teapot that you're mentioning and 2 cups. And one general, without saying a word, pours for the other general. And the other general takes his cup and sips. And just through the mannerisms and the minute details of the body language that's expressed in that experience, without saying a word, they can tell who's won and who's lost the war. And they'll get up, they'll get out of the tent. One general says, "Guys, go home, we won." And the other general says, "Guys, let's go home, we've lost." So there's so much symbolism and minor details in the moment that tea can really get us in that space really clearly, really quickly.
I don't know.
Not like coffee where you're like, fuck, I have too much energy. I need to
I
control
know. I
it.
mean, coffee. I get it. I get it. People love
Yeah.
coffee, and they.
And I go to the dark side from time to time. I like coffee. I don't mind it.
I don't ever.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, guys, let's do some questions real quick. Marco, I'm going to you, buddy. Hi, Marco. Good morning. Good afternoon, Marco, to you. My Italian, who of course has to have his coffee, his espresso. But Marco, what's your question?
So, yeah, I'm on mute. Steve, we talked earlier, and yeah, as Ken said, I'm Italian, but I never had a cup of coffee in my life. I drink tea every day.
Wow.
And my question is, so you know how the tastiest foods are contain ingredients that can excite all the receptors on the tongue, you know, all the taste receptors, like sweet,
Yeah.
tasty, sweet, salty, bitter, etc. What ingredients should we include in a tea blend so we can excite each receptor on the tongue and get a full experience of, you know, of the taste of a blend?
That's such a beautiful question. So yes, there are blends that we create and blends that you can go and create even through your own backyard, whether it's using lemon verbena or basil or mint, and combined with black teas and green. There's different ratios that you can experiment with. But if you find a really good tea, now I'm going to backtrack just a second on the quality of tea. So I'd like you to imagine, Marco, that you're getting a bag of chips, unflavored, unsalted chips. Okay. On the top of the bag, you get these beautiful uniform shapes. And as you work your way down to the bottom, they're a bit more broken. And as you're all the way down at the bottom, you have powder or dust. So what's happening is they're sourcing, as we source tea, we source from the top 2% of all the teas that are produced in the world, but the dust flies up in the air, falls on the ground, they sweep it in giant piles, and that's typically what's reserved for most traditional paper tea bags. So your flavor profile is flat, it's like cardboard, and it's sitting in a distribution center or it's sitting in the supermarket shelf. When you're drinking a really high quality whole leaf tea, what happens is the leaf opens up and unfurls, the natural oil content gets pushed into the liquid, and you're drinking what should be a full taste experience. In other words, the word umami, which is that ultimate taste experience, was actually found in two ingredients. In Japan, it was found by a scientist that discovered it in tea, in high quality gyokuro and high quality matcha, but also was found in high quality seaweeds. That taste of salt and sweet and astringency all mixed together. That's true umami. So we want, when you're drinking a high quality tea, it should be able to hit your palate and hit your tongue in really unique ways.
So
And
no mixture or blend or anything you suggest?
there, oh man,
Well,
there's so many. But part of it is high quality ingredients. I'm going to give you another example, two small examples. One is I was in Japan pre-COVID, and I went to Kyoto and I had a bowl of soup, and that bowl of soup had a small vegetable, a small potato, and broth. Right, there was like 3 ingredients. That broth was water and again vegetable squash, and a potato. And I said, chef, I need to talk to, I need to find out, like, what did you put in this? It's incredible. And they're like, that's it. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, we just sourced the best quality vegetable, the best quality squash, and the best quality potato we could find. And we just extracted as much flavor as we could. So if you're using really high quality ingredients, then naturally if it's preserved well and stored well and grown with intention, and with great soil conditions, you can have an amazing chamomile. Some of the most basic thing I've had, our chamomile is the best it's ever been because of the oil content and how it's grown and stored. But there's also really, really shitty chamomile that's sour, and you need to add milk and honey and lemon and all this other stuff to it. So I'd say go for sourcing amazing ingredients wherever you might be getting it, and there you'll have a really great tasting experience.
What country do you like your chamomile from?
So I love Egyptian chamomile, but because of the inner politics, it's been really challenging to source really high quality chamomile. So what we're finding is that Turkey is actually producing really nice chamomile.
Great.
Romania is providing really great chamomile, and Poland.
Oh, not great.
I've not had Greek chamomile, but I'm assuming that it's probably amazing.
Oh, no, I agree with Egypt. You're right, Egypt, and I didn't do Romania, Turkey, but wow, chamomile is great to have. You're right. Let's go over to CK. Hey, CK in the dojo. CK.
Hey, it's so cool to hear this side of you, Ken. By the way, I had no idea you're a tea lover for some
When
reason.
people know me, they
Yeah.
give me tea as a gift.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
The ones that give me wine, they don't know me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And then Steve, so much acknowledgement for just the mastery of, you really brought me to, along with you, the picture, the fragrance, and then the way you describe it. I'm so like right there with you. So
That's
I'm an
awesome.
eager student of tea. I don't know tea at all, and I want to learn. And for me, what's intriguing about it, it's not so much a taste. I appreciate it, but it's more about the rituals, like the meaning behind it and the philosophy behind it. So for someone, what would you recommend for someone like me, who's a total novice, who's interested in the philosophy of integrated living, right? Really deep in that using tea as a tool to bring us to higher level of consciousness and awareness. What would you recommend? Books, podcasts? Like, where do I go?
Oh man, you're a brother from another mother. I'm so impressed with your question, and I want to do whatever I can to support you on your journey. There's a one book that is so simple. I'm sorry if you cannot see my screen as I'm typing.
Oh, we
but,
see you.
Okay, the Book
your
of Tea.
Share your screen here. Let me make it so you can share your screen.
No, it's okay. I don't need to share, but it's called the Book of Tea, and it's by Okakura Kakuzo. And he was an art curator, and it's a simple book. You can actually get it for free on Google if you'd want to buy the book. But it's it. I mean, in terms of really understanding the way of tea and the effect that it has on our society, the effect that it has on us, and the influence in terms of, I'd say, better understanding our space, right? It's phenomenal. It is a phenomenal read. Now there's other, James Norwood Pratt. He's also an acclaimed author in the tea space. He's written the Tea Dictionary and gets really gritty in terms of varietals of leaves. Definitely an esteemed colleague and well celebrated in the tea space. But as far as the way of tea and understanding it on that, the how it affects, he doesn't talk about how it affects our neurotransmitters and the physiological effects of, but he gets there on a philosophical level that I think will resonate based on your questions. And then, by the way, one of the best things you can do, so when I was studying at the Ayurvedic Institute, I was part of a rash group of hardcore yogis where we wanted to really understand the biological effects of tea. So we understood in Ayurveda that there is a pre-digestive effect, digestive effect, and post-digestive effect. In other words, as you're digesting something, you're starting to assimilate the flavor profile and understand it. And the tongue sends let's say it's spicy. The tongue is actually acting as a sensor guide, telling the stomach, hey, look out, there's something really spicy coming in here, be prepared. And so the stomach, gets extra secretions going. So that way it's protecting itself from burning. And then there's the post-digestive effect, meaning after it's left your body, you're still digesting it on a cellular level. So one of the things that we would do is every Thursday we would fast for the entire day, and we would just digest one ingredient for that day, that one herb or botanical, to really understand the pre, post. So, in terms of alchemy, really seeing what can we do as humans. It's getting a little philosophical, man. I hope I don't lose you guys, but
This is great.
how can we be inner alchemists, right? How can we transform the energy, what we're consuming, and give it its full life purpose, and realize that through our senses, right? So another example might be, and I'm glad you guys are tracking with me, because I never know how kooky or weird I might be seeming with this, but let's say I tell you a joke. As I'm telling you the joke, you're like, okay, cool, I get it. This is gonna be funny. This is good. I finish the joke, you laugh, you think it's hilarious, log off the Zoom call, you start driving somewhere, and you're like, wait, that was kind of fucked up. That wasn't that funny. That was kind of mean, or whatever it might be. So there was the pre-digestive effect as you're getting it, the digestive effect, I get it, and then the post-digestive effect and how that affects the body. So even a banana has these different stages. So tea also has, as you tap into it, CK, as you tap into it, you'll start to understand how it affects on a really cellular level. And I encourage your development and your growth in this process, and would love to stay in touch with you and just hear you continue to track on it.
Thank you so much, CK. I apologize for being a blasphemous right now, but I am going to ask a couple of very, very basic questions. Please do not look down upon me, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when I show you. Let's talk.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about bags, different types. If we have to, what are we going with? Single, the old school, or now the new? I have no idea. Is it a nylon? I'm not even sure.
So great. So yeah, it's amazing. You called it single. That's called a single chamber bag. IMO 9000. It's a famous beautiful Italian machine that bags over. Oh, I see. Matt is holding something up. Matt, were you holding tea?
What do you got?
Oh, Tao tea. Yeah.
Tao
Is that Tao tea?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know those
Sorry,
guys.
it's Mighty Leaf organic gunpowder.
Oh, okay, gunpowder, sure.
Gunpowder. So there's various grades of gunpowder. Ping shui, as it's interpreted within Chinese. It is the second most popular tea within China. It is a common man tea. It's a very cheap and expensive way of making it, but it gives you that smoky, fucking just punch you in the face, chewing on leather kind of flavor profile if you let it steep. So for the coffee drinker that's like, I want to drink tea too, gunpowder is a really great experience. And there's various grades. You want to look for the smaller one, the tight, shiny, texture on the outside. That'll give a bit more of a punch and flavor profile, and make you call for more, right? But going back to the 3 different bags. So
let's go back.
Typically,
let's talk about this.
Okay, let's talk about that. Microplastics. It's a big deal now, right?
Yeah.
There was a big study that came out on microplastics with tea bags. So we, from the very early stages, decided that we are going to source these pyramid shaped bags because people want a loose leaf tea experience and they want it easy. So what we ended up sourcing was a bag that's actually made out of a corn-based derivative.
Oh, there you go. Let's see.
So there's no microplastics. So what you end up getting is the same beautiful nylon style.
Yes.
But it's completely biodegradable and compostable without impacting the environment with the billions of microplastic that's often found
this
within.
one's from New Zealand. This is a compostable bag out of New Zealand.
So it's probably made out of corn, but there are some major players out there in terms of the tea space that are making it out of nylon and getting a lot of slack for it right now.
Well, they can. Because I was told that some of the artifacts wind up in your tea.
Yeah, the microplastics can get in there. They'll melt and they'll get in there. But if it's made out of corn, it's not plastic, so you don't have to worry about the plastics.
The new one coming out now is made out of cassava, which I think is interesting too. Which is well, let's go with the single, not the ones that we generally see with our old tea bags. But
yeah. So the single chamber is fine, but look at the size of the leaf. So teas are graded by size. So size does matter in terms of tea. So you want to look for a larger leaf. So we actually have our own patented design.
Let's see.
Where you basically, it's going to seem so simple, but it's our own patented design where basically you fill your own loose leaf tea inside and you cinch it.
That's your patent? That's amazing.
This is our patented design. Yeah. And it's a very simple way of, people are like, I don't want to mess up tea. I don't want to make it the wrong way. Basically the teaspoon is called the teaspoon because that's the right measurement in terms of how much tea you should be using. 1 teaspoon per cup. Place it inside the filter bag, cinch it, and put it inside your favorite mug, your favorite teapot, whatever you like, glass, ceramic, cast iron, yisheng, and you just pull it out and you throw this in your garden and you're set.
That's awesome. Again, go back to your glass of tea that you have right below you with that concoction you
Yeah.
got going. What do you got in here?
This is the jasmine pearls that I was talking about, along
That's
with
just
the
one. How many
crimson
are in
oolong.
there? Is that 1 or 2 or 3, or how many do you have in
Yeah,
there?
good question. There's about 10 in here,
10.
and it opens up. So you, in other words, you take about this much, right? A very small amount, and boom, it completely opens up and unfurls. And so even part of the process of tea is being fully present by watching the leaves unfurl. That process is called the agony of the leaf. And it's where it's fighting with the water content and the oil that's being released from the leaf, the air bubbles that have been trapped inside its form, and it dances. You'll see the leaves rise up and you'll see them fall down until they fully open up, bloom, and realize its full potential.
So you probably are, well, again, I would love to graduate even at a fraction of what you know. I hate when people do sweetened tea. And the reason why is because I think they're missing out on what the element of the natural flavor is supposed to be. And I think, especially in our society, everybody wants something that's sweet. And they're neglecting to know what the personality of what that tea was supposed to be.
Well, if people are drinking tea that's just the powder or the dust that's left over from producing the leaves, you end up getting either that taste of cardboard or something really sour and bitter. So people need to add milk, and they need to add sugar, and they need to add honey and all these other sweeteners to it. But if you're using a really high quality whole leaf tea, then you don't need to add anything else to it. On its own, it's a remarkable, mind-blowing experience. So I hated tea growing up. I mean, for me, it was like this leftover mud or sand in a bag. And it wasn't until I was introduced to really high quality tea drinking experience that, sort of like I wouldn't say the Matrix moment of red, blue pill, but like it's just sort of everything got really myopic, and I was able to just be, really honed in to that flavor experience.
You find
So
this,
there's,
the
yeah.
tea is more geared towards guys compared to women. Do you find that there's
There's more men that drink tea in the world than there are women that drink tea in the world.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And men do tend to gravitate more towards the mint or the black teas, while women will tend to gravitate more towards the floral or some of the dessert flavor teas.
Got it. Edmund, why don't you ask a question? Go for it. Unmute yourself, buddy.
Yeah, I was going to ask about tea wheels. I have friends that travel to, well, they were traveling to China. They're not doing it now, but they've sent me back some teas. I want to know, tell me a little bit more about the tea wheels, because I only know what I've learned from documentaries on tea. And, I have one that I love that was sent to me from Southern China. The flavor is wonderful. But can you educate me more about that?
Yeah, so what he's talking about is basically it looks like a disc. And that disc is typically from one province in China called the Yunnan province. It's the birthplace of tea. And they have these 6 famous mountain regions. If it's from Jingmai Mountain, that is the most prominent mountain region, they can fetch for a tremendous amount of money depending on age. Just like art, there's fake art that's out there. And so I've had some high-powered CEOs that have said, my birthday is in 1952. I want you to source me a 1952 pu'er. Can you do it? And they'll fetch for $2,000 to $3,000 for a disc. Imagine like a little frisbee. So I have a professor friend of mine there that I needed him to authenticate it, and it gets tricky. But typically with those teas, it's a very niche group of people that gravitate towards it. It's good for fighting cholesterol. It's great for energy, but you end up getting this really like people that like stinky cheese, right? Like they really are or particular types of wines that really gravitate towards it. So it's an acquired taste, but it's like whiskey. Men love pu'er. Especially if it's an aged pu'er, you end up getting that smoky,
Yes.
full mouth feel. So
Right. I've grown up with, my mother introduced me to those when I was young, so it's something that I
Wow.
like. And I'm lucky that I have a wonderful wheel that was gifted to me. So,
I'd love to see it. Maybe send me a picture of it. I'm
Okay.
happy to see if I can tell you a little bit more information or not. I'm not a poor expert by any means, but I love meeting another tea fan out there. That's awesome.
thank
I'm
you.
not sure
This
if
is
it's-
actually, it was easy to travel with. So, this was one of the first books that were ever written on tea was called Cha-Ching. So, because one, cha meaning tea and ching with the way. So cha-ching, not just cha-ching, but also it was a form of commerce. Along the tea routes, they could easily trade tea, one for consumption and energy, but also two for, it could travel well for long periods of time.
Are you familiar? Do you remember Funner Mill? I think I'm pronouncing it Funnel Mill in Santa Monica. Did you ever go to that tea
Oh,
shop?
yeah. Uh-huh.
They respected tea properly. You didn't go
Yeah,
in.
they served it well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they served it well. They had a menu and you were able to go through it. I'm not sure if it's there anymore. COVID, of course, has changed a lot. I'm guessing your business probably had to pivot because it sounds like you went from a B2B and now you're going to direct to consumer.
So we still service the high-end hotels and restaurants of the world, and we're doing whatever we can to leverage best practice and share and be a part of that experience. But one of the biggest lessons that we learned was go all in on trying new things. And so part of that was we launched a new website that got a great response. We launched an educational platform on how to become a tea expert, and we also launched an app. So everything that we've launched, as we continue to pivot, and as you put energy out there in the world, you end up getting more energy, right? And so we've transferred what we're doing, and we're seeing better results from it.
But what did that
By the way, it's totally freaking out over everything that we do that's new, but we're continuing to innovate and trying to do what we can as best as we can.
you did say that you guys suffered in the COVID space. Did you end up getting COVID?
No, thank God, no, I did not. Not that I'm aware of.
You did.
But I had some friends that got COVID, and we just traveled. I went with my family out to Park City about a week ago, and I had some friends who were like, "You guys are going on a plane? Like, what does that? What does that mean?" And so right away, I took a test. By the way, the plane smelled like bleach, so it was, for me, it felt very, very safe.
We're
Taking
safe
this
on a
very
plane.
seriously, but I got tested. As soon as I got back, I did the rapid test just so that my friends and family around me could feel really safe.
But let's talk about tea as being something if you feel like you're not feeling well or you need to boost your immunity system. Suggestions?
Yeah, there's a number of really great ingredients. Well, first of all, for SARS, there's tremendous research on how tea, specifically oolong and green teas, was used in research to actually help fight SARS, especially around the back of the throat. And so there's closely related research on COVID-19 and SARS. Also, just general immune boosting ingredients, ashwagandha. It's an Ayurvedic herb. It translates as power of the horse, especially as men, as we get a little bit older. Start taking on. I'm not a doctor. I'm not making medical, but if I was you, which I take ashwagandha, I'd strongly recommend.
Just
taking
make sure you
ashwagandha.
don't take it with black pepper because they do mix it with black pepper. Don't do that. It rips your gut apart.
Interesting.
Really, really
Thank you
bad.
for that.
Yeah, they use it as
Okay.
a delivery mechanism. A couple of more things because we're running out of time real quick.
Yeah.
You must have things that we should be trying out to gradually get us to that level to where we could really be sophisticated. Do you have like a beginner's kit?
We have how to become a tea expert on our website. So if you want to learn more and you like what we're doing, and so there's a course. It's only $20, and you can go and you can check it out. There's 25 videos that we put together and some bonus videos. Also, we have a loose leaf starter kit that's also reasonably priced, and a subscription program. And if any of you have employees and staff that we created with the help of Sasha and his brilliant mind and team, created a care kit where basically if like for Google, for example, in their Google Teams, we created a kit where for every 10 boxes that they buy, we'll donate to first responders. So, and it's a variety of different teas within it.
You've been to the Middle East, obviously, right?
Yes. Yeah. Every year,
So
except for this year.
Yemen and those areas are really into
Not
honey.
been Yemen.
Well, they have
Mm.
different honeys. If you've been to Dubai, you know they have honeys are a big deal, and they
Especially date honey, like Ceylon's. Yeah.
yeah yeah. Well, say that again.
Ceylon is a form of date sugar. They create like
Got
a
it.
date honey out of it.
Well, I'm saying actual bee honey, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
mixing it with tea, they're saying there's unique properties too, and they're not saying it makes it sweet. It's just a better companion. That's what they believe out there. And I was wondering if you've gone and tried the different honeys out with different teas.
So Manuka honey is supposed to be the best with tea. We're actually working on a
Yeah.
potential project with a guy named Dr. Mike, who's like the #1 influencer on as far as the doctor of the internet. So Manuka, which is based out of New Zealand, and there's different UMF levels as far as the health ratios. So if you're looking for a honey, I'd strongly recommend getting Manuka honey.
Got it. Hey, Sasha, I know that you wanted to bring something. Sasha, come on here real quick, buddy. I know you don't like to talk when it's not your name on the billboard, but Sasha, come over here.
I'm here. Talk to me. What do you want to know?
Well, first, I see either you're making statements or questions, or you want to contribute in the chat. People that are not reading the chat, why don't you say what you're saying?
All right, that's fair. I was prodding you, Ken, because I want, Steve is a super modest person, and you can see how thoughtful he is. He is working on a book, and I thought the Metal family needs to know about it. And so, Steve, can you give us a clip of what you're working on?
Yeah. It's like caught off guard. I almost want to read the back cover copy. So that way, that might be best if I do that, because it's weird for me to talk about so have you ever wished the world would just stop for a minute? What if it could? As a teenager, Steve Schwartz lived in 24/7 survival mode, going hungry whenever he couldn't find enough work to pay for a school lunch. At the age of 19, he nursed his dying mother through the final stages of terminal cancer. His mother's death launched him on a journey to far-reaching places of the world, voyaging with sages, tea gurus around the world, sourcing in far-flung fields, and developing award-winning blends along the way. Fascinated by the craft, he found himself on a journey of self-discovery that turned a passion into world-renowned teas. So join the founder of Art of Tea as he reveals a surprising true story behind its international success. Learn how he grew a tiny tea concept into partnerships with brands like Wolfgang Puck, Vera Wang, Peninsula, all through this timeless ritual of tea itself and its mysterious ability to carve small pockets of peace into a modern life.
Wow. When is that coming out?
January, February of next year.
You have your publisher?
We're thinking of some. I'm open to thoughts and feedback.
Okay,
So,
I definitely have somebody you should be talking to. Okay, Jeff Snyder.
cool.
And
Sounds familiar.
is this your first book?
This is my first book. Yeah.
You got to go on like tea like journeys now, right? So once COVID, by the way, COVID is not going to lift next year. Just be aware of that. So how do you create your tea Zen Zoom rooms? How do you create that and do that on a regular, maybe even on the weekends? Oh my gosh, I know it'd be crazy, but maybe you might have to get that book like a baby, go on to the next level. Last question. If we all had only, unfortunately, a Whole Foods to go to, or a store that's on like nearby to go pick up a tea, and we can't order from you right now because we need it tonight, and we have to sit back and have a cup of tea and really appreciate it, what would be something that we could kind of put together tonight and enjoy right now if we ran out to the store?
I'd rather you because we believe in the freshest ingredients possible, I'd rather you go buy fresh mint at the supermarket and make fresh mint than something that's been sitting on a supermarket shelf for a long period of time.
I respect that. What would you put inside there? Just fresh mint and that's it? Lemon?
I would muddle it. And if you did have some shitty black tea, it would mask but you still want the bio effect of the tea. Then you can add a little bit of the 1 or 2 tea bags, but muddle that fresh mint, really get the pot covered in it and sip it. And it's beautiful on its own. It's got natural sweetness to it. Spearmint, go for spearmint or Nana. It's got a really nice fresh flavor profile.
I love it. Sasha, great find. Great. Steve, where in Santa Monica are you?
I live in like near Culver City, the whole Pico Robertson area. So it's called Beverly Wood. And our warehouse, by the way, our company is called artoftea.com. And we're located about 10 minutes east of downtown Los Angeles.
Steve, thank you so much for spending
Such
time.
an honor to be here. And Sasha, thank you for the introduction.
Everyone, unmute yourself and thank Steve.
Awesome.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Sasha. Thank you,
Bye,
Ken.
guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
You too. Bye.